Hey, friends and fam. It's John, and it's time for JMART Cast, your destination for Monday morning insight about physical and financial health. You're not going to believe it, but I was recording the podcast already, and when I went for 20 minutes and realized that none of it got recorded, there's an issue with the connection to the microphone, and it was completely blank. Just ridiculous. So, you know what? I'm going to try it one more time, but I'm going to run through everything way faster because I just don't have time to do this again. Well, first of all, the first thing I wanted to go over health-wise is there's a new study that came out of Harvard about how eating red meat is associated with diabetes. You know, it's not eating sugar and garbage that's associated with diabetes. It's red meat, the most nutrient-dense, good-for-you food that promotes health. You don't need to look too far into the study to see that it's complete garbage. It's an epidemiological study, not a trial study where you're actually giving someone food. You're just, sending questionnaires and asking questions and coming back and doing some data manipulation with statistics to come out with an outcome you want. But in that study, they define red meat, or some of the foods that they included in the red meat category are sandwiches and lasagna. Right there, that's enough. You know it's a garbage study, and you don't need to look into it any further. Okay, next thing I wanted to cover is Ozempic. You've heard about Ozempic, possibly. It's like this weight loss drug that people are taking, and anytime you take a drug, you got to be aware of the side effects for it, right? And unfortunately, now they're trying to the drug makers are looking to test this drug for obese kids, 6-year-olds, because why make the kid actually eat healthy food to lose weight when you can just give them a drug, right? That way you have more, clients for the drug maker, right? And they make more money. That's good for the shareholders and everything. That's not good. There's a study that came out in this year, October 5th, just recently, looking at side effects of this drug, and it's associated, so they can't say it causes it based on the study, but it's associated with an increased risk of pancreatitis, gastroparesis, and bowel obstruction. So pancreatitis, that's redness and swelling of the pancreas. That happens when the digestive juices or enzymes attack the pancreas, so that's not good. You don't want things attacking your pancreas. Gastroparesis, that happens when there's delayed gastric emptying, so that means your stomach's taking too long to empty its contents. That's not good, because when the food doesn't empty properly, it forms a solid mass called a bezor. You don't want a bezor in your stomach. And then lastly, bowel obstruction, that happens when a small intestine or colon is partly or completely blocked. Blockage prevents food, fluids, and gas from passing through the intestines normally. Do any of these things sound like good things for kids to be, exposed to by taking this stupid Ozempic drug? No. Just no. Speaking of kids and, horrible diseases that they're unfortunately undergoing, another one is NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. This is a disease that was pretty much unheard of in children just a few decades ago, but it's been just growing at a staggering rate. I found a graph with the source of its data from Trilliant Health Analysis of Insurance Claim Data, and it shows data from 2017 to 2021, a percent increase in different age groups. So it's the different age groups are from 0 to 17, 18 to 44, 45 to 64, and 65 plus. In all age groups, NAFLD has been going up at a staggering rate. But for children, 0 to 17, it's gone up from 2017 to 2021 by 168%. It's crazy. So, non-alcoholic, meaning this is not caused by alcohol, but is caused by other food that they're consuming. What do you think they're consuming to cause non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? Could it be perhaps the crappy cereals that, kids are fed, right? These cereals are part of a healthy breakfast, right? That's the messaging we're getting. They're not. They're just not. My kids have never eaten cereal unless they've had it at, somebody else's house, not in my house. I don't feed my children garbage. I feed them real food. I feed them red meat, and they love it. They love seeing the pinkness in the steaks I give them. They want to get the pink part. Sometimes I give them the edge piece that's been seared. They're like, no, give me the pink inside. That's what I feed my kids, and they're not fat. They're never gonna. While they're under my care, they're never gonna develop NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. What else? Okay, that's it for health stuff. Let's talk about Bitcoin real quick. Bitcoin update. We're sitting on block height 814,405. Price of one Bitcoin is trading at $34,688 US. $1 will buy you 2,882 sats or satoshis. Remember, sats are like the cents equivalent in Bitcoin. So if $1 subdivides into 100 cents, one Bitcoin subdivides into 100 million sats. By the way, if you want to support the podcast, you can do so with sats by listening to the podcast with a podcasting 2.0 app such as Podverse, Breeze, or Fountain. These are apps that you can find in the App Store or Google Play Store. And they have a podcast wallet associated with them, which you can use to send to the podcast you're listening to some sats. They have two ways of sending you, the podcaster, the sats, either per minute listened or as one lump sum with a message associated with it. So if you do the one lump sum, this is called a boostergram with the message. I'll definitely read the message on the next episode and, give you a big thanks for it. But you don't have to do that. Just listen to the podcast, share it with friends, and, you can even reach out to me. Reach out at jmartfit@substack.com. All right, so I had this messed up interaction with a friend, not a friend, an acquaintance, where on my Instagram stories, what did I do? I shared this Toronto Star article about the potential of universal basic income coming to Canada, and I, reposted this Toronto Star article with, a caption saying like, this is clown world, this is not any good, very critical of it. And this acquaintance messaged me back, asking me if I've read any data about, potential impact of something like this. Do I know anything about it, basically? And my response was, no, I haven't read anything, but I don't need to, because this is clearly just communism rebranded. Therefore, automatically I'm against it. And his response is, well, isn't that poor discernment if, you don't actually read anything about the topic? And I was like, no, it's not poor discernment. It's, some things are just obvious. Like, for example, so I gave him the example of minor attracted people. I've been seeing this online a lot. People are trying to rebrand pedophilia as minor attracted people. I was like, you don't need to read anything to know that this is just bad, right? This should be condemned, right? I don't need to delve into literature to know that minor attracted people are a menace to society. And his response was just mind-blowing to me. He goes, well, I haven't read much about pedophilia, to be honest. I imagine it's a pretty complicated psychological pathology. And that just blew me away. I couldn't believe he said anything like that. It's like, what the hell, dude? How can you not just simply condemn pedophilia and like, it's not... Anyway, we did a little back and forth, and his basic point is just like, we need to learn more about pedophilia in order to be able to stop. If we don't really understand it, it's never going to end. And I'm just like, that is 100% not true. There's lots of other psychological issues, or even physiological ones, right? Like, obesity or NAFLD. We know plenty about those two things, and yet it's not ending. It's just going straight up, right? How come when we know more about it, we don't actually stop it from occurring? Because that's not how it works. It's just simply not how it works. And yeah, I just kind of told him that he's just got no ability to think from first principles. And the same thing applies to UBI. You just think from first principles. Okay, UBI is just going to give money to people to sit around and not do anything. Okay, great. That's just like what communism was, right? Like, no benefit to working harder. That was communism. And so what happened? People freaking starved to death because the state wasn't able to run efficiently. And that was the case in Soviet Russia. That was the case in communist China. That was the case in Cambodia. All these places that have had communism, the communism experiment. The communism experiment has been the most deadly experiment of the 20th century. You don't need to read anymore. You just open up a history book on the last 100 years. You're like, yep, communism bad. Don't need more of it. Yeah, so anyway, I stopped talking to this guy, but not much time later, I came across this clip on Instagram about a UBI bill coming to the Senate to be voted on. And then I'm not sure if it has to go to the House of Commons afterwards or if it's already done that. But anyways, just these people, claiming that they've done studies and it shows that this is a lot better for everybody to have UBI, right? Because the population of I think they mentioned the Vancouver area population of homeless people has increased by 30%. Meanwhile, the total population has only increased by 3%. So we need to provide these people with universal basic income. So, they're not mentioning the fact, like why the housing population has increased so greatly, right? And it has nothing to do with the crazy inflation with all the deficit spending by the liberal government, right? None of that. Making housing unaffordable. But it's, but we've created this problem. Now our solution is let's throw more money at the problem, right? So I didn't like hearing that, obviously, or seeing that. And I posted in my Instagram stories and just said, like, I'm glad to have enjoyed this country for the decade and a half before it turned into a communist hellhole, right? We moved here in 2000. It's been 23 years. And since I moved here, and it was good in the beginning. It was a great country. It was a while there where I thought I was proud to be a Canadian, but I'm not sure if that really still holds true, given the direction this country's been headed for since Trudeau took control, really. But in my mind, like I said already, UBI is communism. Communism is death. Like I already said, just open up a history book and you'll see what I mean. So, but I do realize that perhaps I was a little harsh calling Canada a hellhole. So I just wrote a clarification post on my story saying that, it's probably not right to call Canada a hellhole given some of the horrible events that have been happening simultaneously in other parts of the world. Thinking about Gaza in particular and all the, parts of Israel where like the Hamas attacked. But, let's be honest at the same time that things are headed in the wrong direction in this country. And, there doesn't seem to be many rational voices that are calling for change, right? We've got, first of all, like I already mentioned at the start of the podcast, obesity and chronic diseases are skyrocketing. Our liberal government cares more about gender pronouns than actually making, making housing affordable, right? Like I already said, the population of the homeless is growing at a staggering rate. There's an insane amount of government spending going to stupid things, like something no one's talking about is that stupid ArriveCan app. Remember during the pandemic, $50 million was wasted on that. Like, what the hell? Plus, not to mention all the spending going outside of Canada, like Ukraine. Like, why is Canadian money going to support Ukraine? That's driving up inflation and making the cost of living to go up. And that's why there's more homeless people. Yeah, not to mention all the, government censorship that's going on, all the media, like, legacy media just covering up for all the mistakes that the government's making and just, gaslighting everyone into thinking everything's fine. Yeah. Now to top it all off, they're calling for universal basic income. Like, it's something that's just going to make all these problems even worse. So this is, I think, in my opinion, insane. And this is just not the Canada that my family immigrated to 23 years ago. And I think like most likely in the next election, the Conservatives are going to win and maybe Pierre Poilievre's going to be the next prime minister. But I don't even think that that's going to solve anything, to be honest. It's the solution to these issues is not through voting or more government, new politicians. The solution is through opting out of the system, going for a new system, and that's Bitcoin, in my opinion. That's why I'm so passionate about it, and that's why I try to, help friends and family into like learning more about it and understanding it and seeing a brighter future with it. That's why I started this podcast to begin with. So I hope you can hear my message and look into it for yourself and opt out of the current system. All right, with that, we've come to the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me again this week. I appreciate you all. Please leave a comment or send me a message at jmartfit@substack.com. You can also reach me through social media. I'm also on Nostr. All the links are in the description. Love you all. Have a good week. Stay active and be grateful. JMART out.